Welcome, everybody. It's Analena. I'm back for another episode of the Art of Slowing Down podcast. And today I'm super excited because I have a beautiful manifestor colleague here with me, which is the amazing Holly Marie. Actually, Holly, do you use Marie or Herbig as your last name? Because I sometimes know.
Look, I have an undefined G center, so I basically respond to anything.
Okay, I love this. Is a
call me whatever you like.
Answer. Yeah. I love your spontaneity. I mean, your response. That's just beautiful. So, anyways, Holly is a world's only specialist in human design manifestors. She really is the manifestor lady out there, I want to say. Has a big following and facilitating the official online teaching community exclusively for manifestors. She is a certified human design and Gene Keys teacher and a business veteran with 15 plus years experience in multi-million and multi-six-figure businesses under the belt. And she's also a certified clinical hypnotherapist, breathwork, EFT and meditation practitioner, a Reiki 2 healer, and a certified trauma-informed life and success coach. So I don't know what else to say, but that's quite a resume, don't you think?
It's always so weird to hear that, right? From other people when you kind of capture your history and your work in one paragraph. I'm always like, wow, I sound pretty cool. I actually sound all right.
Yeah, and I know because we all have this tendency not to see our magic, right? And we forget. And then when we hear our bio, and I've had this now several times on my podcast where people are like, wow, this sounds really impressive.
I would like that person. They sound great. Yes.
Yeah, so we had a quick chat before we hopped on, and I told Holly that I'm so excited to talk to her because, I'm a manifesting generator, and I talk so much about the generator parts of especially being generators and manifesting generators, but I have to be honest, there's a big part of me that has a lot of the manifestor in me while I'm not here to initiate, and that can be quite of a conundrum. So I'm just so excited just to hear from you, like, I want to actually hear your story. Like, how did human design come your way and you discovered you're a manifestor? How did this shift things?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a very similar story to most manifestors coming into human design in that I was super resistant at first. I mean, we have a real tendency as manifestors behind this closed energy to say, no labels, no systems. But I think because we actually don't find ourselves in anything else, we find parts of ourselves, and certainly I was already in the spirituality space. I'd already gone through a spiritual awakening. I, was working as a spiritual business coach. I was heavily involved in kind of all of these languages. But again, in retrospect, now that I know I have an undefined G center as well, I never felt I was quite captured in anything. So when I was introduced to human design initially, a few people had brought it up in my space, and I was very like, no, thanks. Like, I'm fine. I don't need another series of letters and numbers to introduce myself with. I'm quite adjusted where I am. And over time, like most people, it just kept coming at me. It really felt like I was being pursued by human design, continually coming up in conversation, in, work with clients, in people that I knew. And that went on for probably a good year. And then I was in a mastermind with the beautiful Eden Carpenter.
Yeah, I know.
She's a emotional manifesting generator. She's gorgeous. And Eden and I spent a few days together in LA at a retreat, and we were sharing an Airbnb. And she was like, look, I'm just going to dump human design all over you and see where it lands. And I trust Eden, deeply, exponentially. And I very much had a super conscious moment where, again, looking back, it was a moment of informing the universe, but I very clearly said out loud, okay, universe, hands up. I surrender. If you want to keep bringing this thing to me in this very kind of pointed way, I'll go all in. I'm completely in, and we'll see what we discover. And that just opened an enormous doorway. I mean, for me, the first access point was not even being a manifestor. That didn't kind of even particularly make sense to me necessarily. I felt like it was a lot of nice words like, oh, manifestors are the visionaries and the edge of the collective and kind of all going off in their own. And I was like, okay, sure. Great. that sounds lovely, but I'm not always like that. Really, the access point was seeing it physically. I came from a nursing background, and being able to see where there was physical, that kind of biomechanics in human design, where the energy is meeting up with specific parts of the body, and seeing that, for example, I'm a splenic authority, and I had gone through a 20-year journey with a very rare liver disease, and the spleen runs along that hepatic line through your liver and your gallbladder and your spleen. And that was like, oh my gosh, that's the first time I found any explanation kind of in this energetic spiritual space about why that may have occurred.
Yeah,
for
so
me.
because you didn't listen to the splenic intuition, right?
Yeah, and was in environments, I came from very abusive childhood. I wasn't in environments where I could process fear, where I could listen to my intuition, where I could remove myself from danger. And the spleen is a very mutative little organ, right? And center in human design, and there's that energy has to go somewhere if it's not able to move. And somewhere through that, I guess I kind of like stumbled into vibing with the manifestor part. I was like, oh, the more I uncover about this, the more it seems to make sense to me. But I did find that there was just a lot missing about manifestors in the human design world. It was just sort of the same rhetoric over and over and over again. And I wanted to master it for myself. I wanted to delve deeper into that. I didn't want the experience for other manifestors that I was having, where it felt like I was alone and having to navigate that for myself, because we're kind of a hard bunch, I think, to get living behind our closed energy. So it's really where the journey all sparked from.
I love that so much that you were hanging out with Eden Carpenter, because I'm familiar. I never met her in person, but she's one of the people I look up to, and I love her content. And actually recently she shifted her business perspective, so I've been following her along, and she's like, because she's really living her design. It's being authentic, and she's living that ManiGen, how we kind of shift sometimes quickly and change things. So that's so beautiful. I'm grateful for her that she
me too. Yeah, she's a very valuable person in my life, and thankfully a real prodigy in the human design space. So she's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like you say, right, if human design is meant to be for us, it keeps chasing us. It's like we cannot even run away from it. So
it's kind of relentless, isn't it?
Yeah. In my case, I don't know, it was this like, I just knew, and I always say it found me, not the other way around, So, I mean, I guess we're always looking for the answers, right? Especially with all these certifications we have and energy healing. And we're always like, there's something missing. And human design for me was that one piece where I could finally relax, if that makes sense, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just who I am. So
yeah,
I love that. And so how is that for you? Because you're being a manifestor, right? You have the undefined sacral, and from what you were learning before, I guess, especially being in you said the nursing space, right? That's probably a very intense kind of job situation for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So how did that shift things for you, and how do you live that today?
I think for every non-sacral, so for manifestors, projectors, and reflectors, deconditioning the sacral is just a beast of a journey. I mean, in reality, we have all, as non-sacral, spent our entire lives being taught to be sacral and never really being able to keep up with that and measure up to that. So there's a lot of emotional complexity, I think, to unraveling that. And it is a very kind of constant journey. I still need to monitor that, but coming from a nursing background, the medical field is very sacral driven, right? It's very physically demanding. It's fast paced. You have to be very responsive in the moment. When I left nursing, I actually moved into hospitality and events. And that was my first business, was a cafe. And I spent several years in that space. And that's probably, in my experience, the most ruthless sacral driven industry that you can
even
be
for me
in.
as a manager, and I have to say.
Right. And so I I was working with sacral beings who could go till 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and come back at 10 a.m. the next day and keep going. And there was so much in both of those industries and careers that really landed well with me. I mean, I'm a 4/6, so being able to be in like a tight team, both of those industries require teamwork, intimate connection, good communication. They require the ability to be objective, to make wise decisions in the moment. It definitely landed for me as a splenic authority, being able to intuitively, meet things in the moment and kind of move quickly through stuff. But as a non-sacral, it's just so physically unhealthy for me to do it. And so in both of those careers, I just ended up sick. I just ended up completely burnt out. And that was a conundrum for me for a really long time, because mentally I was like, but I love this.
Yeah,
I love this. And it's, 90% of this is super fulfilling for me. So there was a lot of questioning around, like, why can't I cut it? Why can't I kind of hold up to this the way that everybody else seems to be able to hold up to this? So I think that that's been a releasing journey. That's been a lot of like self-forgiveness and really shifting that perspective from I don't have this, so that lack mentality of I don't have sacral energy and I can't physically compete and I can't be responsive to, I don't need that, because if I needed it, I would have given it to myself. I would have come as an MG or a generator. I came as a manifestor. So sacral energy must not be something that's important for my work.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's also the human design, right? If we go to this, like, I'm missing something, that's not the case. I feel like any openness in this, I mean, in the centers, the undefined, like you guys, I mean, I'm talking about the undefined sacral, you help us, the world, actually teach the wisdom about that life workforce energy, because even generator types are burned out left and right, right? Because and I too, I have a defined will center. I need my rest on a daily basis,
Yeah.
So I can probably go more consistently than a manifester, but it's really, that's why I'm so thankful, because I think the society is just burned out in general, right? Everybody is on this like hamster wheel, roller coaster, and it's just not sustainable. So
yeah, for sure. I think there's a big sacral healing across the
for all
board
of
that,
us,
that we're all journeying through. Yeah.
Yeah. And I find through the openness, because you kind of reflect that back to us in a way, right? Through the openness. So we all like collectively can heal this, like, and especially in the context of money, right? We have this idea, we have to work, and the time, right? The time equals how much money we can make. And that's just the biggest bottleneck we can ever experience. And I know you love to talk about manifestation and money as well, so I would love to hear some of your wisdom on that.
Sure. Yeah. Is there anything in particular you would like to know, or would you just like me to generally riff on it?
So yeah, I mean, I think this whole idea about, because okay, it depending on how many hours you work is how much money you can make, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? And how have you been living and experiencing that it's not the time we put in or how many hours we work, but it can be literally like very focused and minimal, and you can still actually increase, because we have these things like the 4-hour work week and stuff. I mean, it must be real,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah. I think that we've approached it with a lot of extremity in society. We've looked at it as either this kind of hustle culture, capitalism driven, you have to work really, really hard, and that means a lot of hours, and therefore that makes a lot of money. But then we've also got this flip side narrative that's been created that says, no, you don't have to work at all. You don't need to show up, and that should create a lot of money. And realistically, I think the truth is somewhere in between, right? Time is a commodity that we have. It's an asset that we have to use, but time never exists on its own. So whenever we're giving time to something, we're also giving energy to it, and we're giving focus to it, and we're giving space and capacity to it. And those things are equally as valuable as the time that we're involving ourselves in something. So I think, when I first really was was working on myself as a manifestor and trying to get in alignment with that, I was pretty rigid with myself about identifying where's my creative cycle and where's my rest cycle, and trying to just kind of create the lines of that container, if that makes sense, of no, I will only initiate and create when I am in a creative cycle and I have that energy. And then when I'm in a rest cycle, I have to be completely resting. And that was an important part of my journey, I think, to be able to identify those energy cycles so specifically within myself. And that's helpful for teaching other manifestors. But as I've gone on, I've realized it's so much more nuanced than that. It's, the layers are just so much more complex and beautiful, because I can give time to something. If I'm in a creative cycle as a manifestor and I've got a creative urge, I can give 10 hours straight to something and produce something phenomenal at the end of that. But additionally, when I'm in a rest cycle and maybe my energy capacity is only an hour, right, I can still produce something phenomenal. I'm still a manifestor. I'm still initiating. I'm still bringing an important energetic frequency, and the money outcome can be exactly the same for both, right? I can connect with and draw in a lot of money working 10 hours, or I can connect with and draw in a lot of money working 1 hour, or in some cases resting and being and pulling back and not working at all. So I think that we just need to kind of disconnect these things in our own minds of, like, time equals money or effort equals money. They're all just frequencies that we're playing with. And I think what it really boils down to is, are you in energetic alignment? Because if you are, then you get to navigate what frequency you want to come in. And if money or wealth or prosperity is one of those things, great. You do that in the way that you need to do to remain in alignment.
I love that. Yeah, and when I hear you speak, it's really all about giving ourselves permission, right? I get to earn, and no matter how much I work, right? It's like I can make money when I rest. I can make money when I sleep. I love that the most, to be honest, even as a manager, when I sleep. And of course, we have created, but that's where I love the thing about, like, systems, right? Where we can create, like, evergreen content. And I realize that now. I used to think always that, well, it's the one-on-one work, and I have to be physically in the space. And again, I'm not a manifestor, right? But I notice myself, one-on-one work is actually very draining for me when I do it too much. And sometimes people, like, stuff that I recorded a couple of years ago, people come back to me like, oh my God, that changed my life. Or it's like, it's also not only like, you can really make money when you sleep, you can actually change people's lives while you sleep for the most part, right? So
yeah, because the potency in the thing that you created is still there, right? You infused that energy in it when you did it. You don't need to remain there with it. And I think that that's a huge message for both manifestors and manifesting generators, to say, we don't need to stay where we started. We're not going to. We don't really, that's not what we're here for. We're here to just start it, light it on fire, move forwards.
Yeah, actually, my whole body was like goosebumps when you were talking, because I have noticed this a lot from my own journey, right? And I think we all humans have this to some extent. But so I do something, we're really excited about it, right? But then we're like, well, and the next day I already forgot about it, or it's boring, and and I used to think, or like, well, who cares about it? Nobody's going to be interested, right? But I have to constantly remind myself, like, something that I created a year ago or 2 years ago is so worth to promote, to put out there. I'm actually not being of service if I just keep it to myself and pretend it has no value. Because where I was 2 years ago, there's so many people that are there now, and it can be totally a game changer for them. So because there can be a tendency to just discard and, like, oh, I did that, whatever, and I just wasted my time, or nobody's going to be interested because I'm not interested. Because we move freaking fast, and I know it can sometimes spin people's heads. So.
Yeah, it's that manifestor energy, right? It's that once I've created it, I disconnect from it. I call it the creation tether, right? When we're invested in creating something because it wants to come through us and it wants to be initiated, we're all about it. We will talk about it. We're there, we're present, we want to involve people. But as soon as that tether reaches the end, it cuts. It completely cuts, and we have a full disconnection. We usually feel it as boredom, right? I'm bored with this. I don't, there's like almost like a distaste, like a disgust. Like I don't ever want to look at that thing again. And so we tend to lump that in with, well, it's worthless then. Now it doesn't mean anything anymore because it doesn't mean anything to me. And I think that what we need to remember for manifestors and for manifesting generators alike is that those things come through us because the collective needs them. That's why we have this initiating energy. The mechanics of how we do it is a little bit different, right? For manifestors, we do this very like bring the 5D into the 3D. It's, we're not interested about what anybody else is saying about it. We're not responding to anything. We're just drawing this thing through and birthing it and getting it out. For manifesting generators, you guys are feeling the need and responding to that need and then initiating and innovating and creating this thing that is needed. But for both of us, we're meeting the needs. Yeah. We're meeting the needs of the collective. And we really need to honor that. I really think that we need to hold that as the sacred thing that it is, so that, sure, if you created something 3 years ago and you don't want to do it anymore, that's fine. But people are still going to need that. That's exactly what somebody or lots of somebodies are going to need. And in business, your role really is to strategically still make that available for people.
Yeah, no, thank you for also sharing that for ManiGens. That is so valuable. And I actually would love to hear, because I mean, with my 13 and my conscious son, I'm listening. I'm constantly observing what's going on in the human design space and the coaching space. And sometimes it's a little bit humorous too, because there's a lot of like this black or white, right? And I love that I feel like we're very much on board here. Like we're kind of like, we need to find the balance, right? Because it's not this or that. It's not black or white. And so being a manifesting generator, right? I feel is one of the biggest conundrums we can experience, right? Because we are generator types. We're here to constantly respond. However, I know for myself, I have a lot of this creative spark urge energy, and like I create out of the flow, and I'm sometimes amazed. And then I'm like, exactly, I'm so bored and on to the next. And I'm like, I'm never going to finish anything. And who's going to be interested in that? And then also I do initiate a lot, however, through responding, not from, and I mean, we learn, we experiment, we practice, right? Every time, because there is, of course, this urge within me, I have to be honest. When I have this creative spark, I just want to make it happen, but I have to constantly remind myself that, okay, did I respond to, and it's the idea, if it's an idea, I'm not responding, right? That's just like, did I really respond to something on the outside, because somebody asked me, or there was something that I saw, and so, and then I'm also, I think I shared with you, I'm in the quarter of initiation, which is also, it's a lot of initiation energy, right? So I would just love to hear from you, like, how do you see or what's some advice actually for manifesting generators? Because I think oftentimes, I don't feel this way actually, but oftentimes I feel like, why are they only having 4 types? And there should be more about manifesting generators, because often, I mean, in books, sometimes it's just a subtype, or it's a hybrid, and that kind of thing, right? And for me, I have to say, I say it's a hybrid in a way, because there's a big manifestor part. However, you're a generator in essence, and you got to respond. Right?
Yeah. I think that the whole human design space in general, and definitely the collective, like outside of the human design language, still struggles greatly to understand the manifestor energy. Right. And so we see that show up in certain ways for us as manifestors. I think that we have a particular experience about it because we're behind a closed aura as well. So we get that real like, whoa, I can't even read you. like I can't even get you. I think manifesting generators have a slightly different experience of that, because you guys have an open aura. Then people assume that they do know you,
Yes.
but they're not capturing you. They're actually not. They're really just seeing you as a generator on steroids, right? Like, oh, you're a generator that can go really fast. Well, kind of, yeah, but you have manifestor qualities, right? You have this ability to initiate, and that's a very personal, kind of separate, difficult to understand experience. I think even just you mentioned before that distinction between urges and ideas, that's so enormously important to anybody with a manifestor energy type at all in them, especially if you've also got an undefined or an open head.
Yeah,
Because
I have both undefined. How about you?
yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm undefined head and ajna, right? And so the ideas are always there. They're always there, and they're always coming in. And you're not actually here to respond to those. You're not here to do it. And I think the greatest place of compassion that I have for manifesting generators is that for a lot of you, you've really been conditioned to believe that you should be able to do it all, that you should be able to take action on all of these ideas, that you should be able to create stuff and sustain stuff and support other people, when actually that's not what you're here for at all. You're here to bounce, right? You're here to like just move quickly from one thing to the next. And when we can allow manifesting generators to do that, it's so beautiful. It's really beautiful to see you flourish in that way. So yeah, I do think that there is a bit of like a camaraderie. There's a bit of this like solidarity between manifestors and manifesting generators, that we're all like, I think we're all a bit misunderstood. Like nobody kind of gets us right. Yeah. Hopefully that's evolving, and hopefully that's changing.
Yeah, no, I think so. And especially like my daughter's a ManiGen too, so it's like just the knowing that her, when she has her creative moments, and I'm just letting her make a mess, you know. So especially if she's with color and art, I mean, she can just like, and it's really like she gets lost in that in a way, right? And without human design, I would think there's something wrong, I have to fix it, or you know, it would be very, very, very tough. And also of course in business, it's a relief. I mean, the biggest relief ever, right? Because I used to put myself into a box, and I have to follow a certain path, and I have to do it one way, and it's just like this does not work. So
yeah, I think you get a tough rap in business, right? Because
we changed our mind a lot. We are indecisive.
yeah, you're expected to be generators in business. You're expected to find one thing, find your craft, master it, stick at it, you know, time after time, and keep showing up. And because you've got all this energy, you should be able to build this thing and sustain this thing and focus. And that's not at all how you're meant to operate in business. There's meant to be this kind of glorious messiness and pivoting and shifting in the way that you do business, even more so than a manifestor, I think. And we really need to let MGs shine in that area. We really need to let you just carve that pathway out for us and show us that it's okay to move quickly. It's okay to change pathways. It's okay to have things that might be perceived as chaotic on the outside, because the glory of the manifesting generator is like, I always liken you guys to, you know, if you're like, you know, driving around your town and there's this old like abandoned property and it's been there and not used for ages, and one day you drive past and it's getting knocked down, right? Like somebody's bought it and they knock it down, and it kind of sits like that for months. It's just knocked down and it's just rubble and nothing's going on, and you think no one's really doing anything there with that. And then the next morning you drive past it again and there's a huge apartment block built on it. Just like that. It's just, all of a sudden it's gone from nothing to something amazing. That's, to me, that's the MG. You guys are kind of like doing this internal process, right? You're moving and you're shifting and you're innovating and you're initiating and you're creating stuff, and other people don't necessarily see that that's what you're doing. They're just like, it's messy. It's just messy. What are you doing there? Until you then come out with this production, this amazing thing that then everybody else can use. But of course, because you're an MG, by that stage, you've already moved on.
Yeah, exactly. Already left behind.
Yeah. You're onto the next department block.
It's so cool to hear all of that. I feel so seen. Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome to the four line.
Yeah, because our four lines connect, right? So one of the biggest things for me where I used to judge myself so much is that, even though I'm sacral authority and my sacral response, that does not necessarily mean I'm in, because we have this envisioning phase and we need to dip our toes into the water. Let me see if I like the chocolate, and not so much, it's too sweet. Let me go somewhere else, right? So that in itself is like, it was such a game changer. And like now sometimes I change things in my business and the next week I change it back, and because I have to play around with it, and I just, it takes time to embrace it. But the more I talk about it, and I have noticed so many other MGs when I think I had one podcast episode, the permission to be you as a manifesting generator. That was the biggest hit, right? Because it's about, we don't finish things and it's okay, and let it be messy, and just to embrace that. It's such a, allows me to relax. Let's put it this way.
I love a relaxed MG. I'm enamored. I'm always enamored by MGs in alignment. I think you're beautiful creatures.
I think, that's the thing with human design. I love all the types. We need each other, and we are really here to see the beauty in all and learn from each other. And because that's where I really like when people lose me, when I get this vibe of like, oh, we're this time and we're this time and we're better, and it's like, you guys are missing the point. So just I'm gonna go somewhere else. And human design is about bringing us together and allowing each other, like you're the manifestor, you have that, you initiate that idea and you go somewhere else and you let everybody else take care of it. You lead the show. I need that because I couldn't do that. And then we need the projector and put the systems there and the strategy and something. And then we need some lit up generators that freaking love doing this and working it and having more energy from doing that, right? And then the reflectors that are reflecting back everything to us. And
and I think that's part of the wounding for manifestors currently in the human design space in particular, is that because a lot of the messaging we get is you're the lone wolf, right? Like you do it your own way, and you go off on your own, and you don't be told what to do. Granted, we don't like being told what to do, but nobody does, and we certainly have an anger response to being told what to do. But we're quite frequently referred to as just you go and do your manifestor thing. Like you go off and you do that alone, but actually we can't be alone. We can't do what we do without other people. And that's a really damaging perspective for us to swallow, that, oh, it's just better. It's better if I'm alone. It's better if I'm not reliant on anyone. It's better if I don't trust anyone. It's better if I don't share my creative urges, right? Then we end up very lonely manifestors and really crippled with doubt and really feeling very vulnerable about the things that we create, which I think that manifesting generators understand as well. Like, I've just put all this effort into creating this thing. I don't know if it's good enough. I don't know if it's adequate. I don't know if anybody wants it. So this concept, which I agree, I think the whole foundation of human design is that it's about harmony. It's actually about bringing us together, not separating us apart. And we need to start having conversations around that. Manifestors need to start having conversations around that as well, which, I do in my space, but we need to know that like we're all in it together. I need projectors, I need generators, I need reflectors. I'm surrounded by manifesting generators as well. I love it. I need it. I need these people in my life.
Yeah, I love that so much. And when you talk harmony, because I have the 50 gene key, so even in my pulse sequence. So
me too.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
I
need to check that out in your chart. So, but it's like I'm all about like I can see the corruption so clearly, and I'm so like I always want to bring things into equilibrium and into harmony, and like it's just really, really drives me in some way. So, and if you don't mind, I would actually love to hear a little bit, because you're also into the gene keys, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I can see that spark in your eyes.
Yeah, they
Yes,
love
me
that. Yeah.
too. So I would love to hear, like, how do you see like human design and the gene keys go together and enrich each other?
I, I think it's a deeper language. I think that Gene Keys is just a richer language than human design is. And that's not to take anything away from human design. I think human design is profound and has so much to it, right? There's in all of the layers. To me, human design is an onion, right? It's just like pick a layer, go at a layer,
Yes.
see what it can show you. What I feel that Gene Keys really brings is a specificity and a depth to a very, unique area in looking at the gates / the gene keys, right? There's an expansion in that. And when I was first coming into gene keys, I think what really blew me away was that the access to understanding this and experiencing your gene keys and your sequencing there is contemplation.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do.
Yeah.
It's just, you just have to ruminate, think, let it settle through your body. I mean, that for me was just so, yes, because that is the human experience. That is how we integrate. And even in these, spiritual kind of personal development spaces, we're so fast. We're so like answer driven, right? It's really like, oh, I've got to have this intense experience so that it revolutionizes me and it transforms me, and then it will show up as money in my business, right? And Gene Keys says, no, just no. You can't. You can't. You've just got to receive it, and you've got to sit with it, and it will, that process of awareness, just being aware is what will unlock things for you and unfold for you. And certainly the depth within Gene Keys around those biomechanics, how things are showing up in your body, what system of your body is it showing up in, what amino acid is it connected to, right? Like what genetic coding is in this, like that is a depth of science and energetics that is just delicious to me because it's so grounding.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan, and I'm actually about to embark on the Venus sequence retreat. So yeah,
good luck. Yes.
No, and I love also, I mean, for me, like human design is more like a little bit more mental in a way, that it gives us a strategy and really this awareness, this understanding. Okay, this is how I'm supposed to make decisions, and kind of like we need to know those things. And yeah, exactly. Gene Keys is like, you're just gonna relax, you're gonna chill and just take your time and let it unfold. And yeah, the depth of the Gene Keys, like, we talk the gates we have in human design, there's a lot of information out there, but if I look at the Gene Keys, it's nothing. It's really just like, oh, the higher and the lower expression. And like, for example, I have the gate 40 is my core wound. So it's in my unconscious Mars, right? So from a human design perspective, I would just say, well, I need rest on a consistent basis, right? That's basically, and set boundaries and stuff like that. But going into that in the Gene Keys made me understand at a whole deeper level.
Yeah, the behavioral pattern. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, like enlightening. Seriously, so amazing. And like you say, there's nothing to do. There's nothing. And I honestly, I know there's so much out there about like how to heal, and we need to heal and fast, but and we are here Manifestor energy, right? And ManiGens, so we are moving fast. But I mean, my podcast is called The Art of Slowing Down, right? Because that has been literally the message all my life. Always. And when I do consciously slow down, which I wouldn't be able to dive into the Gene Keys if I'm not slowing down, right? It's all about the pause and the art of contemplation. So every time I do that, that's when I'm open to receive those creative urges and listen to my intuition, or I can't even feel my sacral if I'm just running around and moving too fast. So like the slower I go, the more leverage I have to pivot really fast, I guess, in that way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's the drawback to push forward. It's a wave.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it's like the ocean, no?
So it can land. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that the human design language has a lot of masculine qualities to it, which I'm a quad left. All of my variables point left. I'm an unusual manifestor. You know, I'm very strategic and I'm focused, and I, you know, can be kind of lasered in on things and very productive and routine. And so there's a lot about that masculine structure that appeals to me in human design, because I think it's just very clear. It's very direct. That makes it really accessible. The gene keys is very feminine. I mean, the gene key says like, let go of all of that. We're not here to do. We are simply here to be. And all of this already exists. And if you want access to this thing that already exists within you, you do need to slow down. You need to pull back. You need to really trust in this sort of ambiguous timing of like, it will just come to you. It will make itself available to you. And I think there's a real beauty in the balance of those two systems working together. I think they're great languages to put together.
It's like gate 1 and gate 2, right? The most masculine and the most
the divine.
They go together. So, which are both of my incarnation cross. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah. It is. There's something with that, and I say always the same. Like human design is more masculine, gene keys is more feminine, and I'm not a quad right, but I'm one arrow away from being a quad right.
You're so close. Yeah.
And I actually today nerding out a little bit. So Ra, I looked at his chart, Ra from Human Design. He has 3 arrows pointing to the left, so he's almost a quad left. And Richard Rudd, I think I'm pretty sure. I have to double check, but I think I remember he has also 3 arrows to the right. So he's almost a quad right.
Interesting.
So I was like, how cool is that? You know?
Yes.
It's just like, there's much more. He also has the incarnation cross of consciousness like you have, Richard Rudd. So it's just like, it's just like how people live in their design, right? How they're embodying who they really are. And it's just beautiful. And for me, you know, even though I'm such a wild ManiGen, I'm all about here to guide and bring feminine flow into society and create the new future. And like, you know, it's not just the type. There's so much more.
So much more depth and so much more to understand, I think, about sharing energy, collaborating, borrowing energy from people. I've really been enjoying that process consciously in my business this year, and I'm deliberately working with people up close in my space who are quad rights, because it's really challenging for me, right? It's really
and I need people like you to put these systems into place, because don't even ask me, you know.
Exactly. So I think that there's so much beauty in that, in just stepping back and observing and allowing ourselves to gain more wisdom and insight about energy. What is energy? How is it moving? What are we doing with it? What does it mean to us? What does that feel like?
And when we can let that energy flow uniquely, we get away from this like, oh, we have to do it all ourselves, right? Because I'm not good at what you're good at it. And I think in the school system oftentimes we get so taught that you have to be good at everything, right? Instead of just what if we can just let the kids do what they're good at? Of course, I want to be able to have basic math and be able to read, right, and write, but I think we are really forcing oftentimes, right, things that are not your natural talent, you know. So
for sure. I mean, I have 3 kids. I've got a projector, a generator, and a manifestor, and watching each of them navigate through the education system is fascinating. I mean, it's really fascinating to see where they're expected to fit in, you know, where they kind of get those edges rubbed down, especially the manifestor, right? And how much anger he feels about that, and how much resistance he has to it. And it gives me a lot of reflection on my own childhood, right? There's a lot of healing in kind of being able to parent kids of different energy types, but certainly kids of your own energy type as well.
They're our biggest healing opportunity, right? I agree.
Always.
I love that. So Holly, I would love to hear from you how, you know, you have this Manifestor community. I would love for you to share a little bit about it. And then for anybody that's interested, what is it that you offer? Is it like a monthly container, a yearly container? What does it entail? Would love to hear.
So we are at the Manifestor community. We're mostly on Instagram. It's kind of where we hang out. And it's not all manifestors, surprisingly. We have a lot of people who are non-manifestors who kind of, I sometimes feel like we're zoo animals, right? They kind of come in and just like watch us and observe us because maybe they're married to a manifestor or their kids are manifestor or whatever. But we talk exclusively, with Human Design and Gene Keys content around being a manifestor and what that is like. It's definitely a community. I'm a 4 line. So it's very important that there's a lot of conversation and intimacy and space together. All of our products are manifestor focused and largely are pretty self-paced. So everything is at themanifestorcommunity.com. I have just recently broken away classic manifestor energy. I was like, well, that urge is done. And now I'm feeling a little bit bored. So I've taken a little side project and created a second account on Instagram, which is I am Holly Herbig. And over there, I'm just talking all about business. It's not human design at all. It's just drawing on 15 years in business and having a lot of conversation around what is business? What does this actually mean? And how does this work? And how do we cut through all of these illusions and, crappy, unhealthy conversations around business? So yeah, if you're a manifestor or you're interested in manifestors, definitely come and hang out in the manifestor community. And if you're really more about business, feel free to come over to I am Holly Herbig. We'll see how long that little urge lasts and where that takes me.
Right. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I want to actually check that out. Your new channel. That sounds intriguing. I feel like we're here to change the way we do business, right? So
agreed. Yeah.
Especially with having the knowledge of human design in the back burner. So it's definitely because it's not sustainable anymore. So I love that.
Thank you. I agree.
There's a reason why the divine is this bringing through you, right? So we will see what this is going to evolve in. So I'll make sure I drop this all in the show notes, of course. And I want to really thank you for your time. Was such a beautiful conversation. I love how you brought together the manifestor and the manifesting generator. I think that's going to help so many of us. And I love your energy. You're so genuine and just beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a real privilege. It's an absolute honor to be able to meet people, to have access to your audience. Thank you for letting me borrow some space and share some time with the people that come and collaborate with you around your work. So thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah, of course. You're so welcome. And before we finish, I want to ask you just one more question, which is like just one final piece of wisdom or that's really on your heart that you want to share, if that's with the manifestors or the whole audience, whatever that heart message is.
Oh, golly. Opening up the 4. What does the heart want to say? I really think that we are in a space at the moment where we have access to a great deal of healing, especially around relationships, right? It's a big theme right now for all of us. And that's challenging. That's a really challenging thing. I think a lot of people right now are feeling very triggered and kind of insecure and confronted and challenged by questions of worthiness and intimacy and connection and communication. And for those who have perhaps only just scratched the surface of their human design or haven't really, dived fully into it, dive further, because there's a lot of answers in here. There's a lot of clarity. If you're already far down the human design rabbit hole, go into your Venus sequence in Gene Keys because that is really going to illuminate a lot of things for you. Because I really feel like we do have the genuine capacity to heal deeply right now, and we just need to be willing to show up for ourselves to do that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. So I think I was just nodding and nodding.
Yeah.
and because I'm about to embark on the Venus sequence, and yeah, it's such a gift. I really, like you say, it's such a privilege we have actually access to this, because 1987, when we were like little girls, right, that our parents didn't know, they didn't have human design. So we have now these like incredible tools of awareness. And I can also say, and I think it's always a journey, we go much deeper, but the impact it has had on my relationships is just blew my mind. Continuously does. No, it's not only, it's for every area in life, for your health, business, relationships, like anything you can think of, kids, parenting. It's for everything. It's for life, really, anything that life, that's what it's for. So thank you. That was a very Powerful. I knew there was something magical, so I had to ask you.
Thanks. I'm glad it was received well.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. So again, thank you so much, Holly. This was just amazing. And I am so delighted you are listening to us. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm actually pretty sure you all did. And I'm excited to be with you on the next one.